The true mystery behind Exhuma. The curse of the stakes that pierced the Korean peninsula. Part 1. A brutal spiritual war hidden for 100 years. In 2024, a Korean film titled Exhuma shocked audiences around the world. There is a scene where a grave is unearthed, and beneath the coffin, a massive iron stake is discovered. Many people walked out of the theater thinking the same thing. That must be pure fiction. Something created only for the movie. But the truth is, that scene is not as imaginary as it seems. Because for more than 100 years, deep within Korea's mountain ranges, on cliffs so steep that even reaching them is dangerous, mysterious iron stakes have been discovered. Again and again. To Koreans, land is not just soil and rock. The land is alive. They believe invisible pathways of energy flow beneath the ground. This belief is known as Pongsu, or Korean geomancy. According to this tradition, energy flows down from mountains, gathers, stops, and erupts at specific points. These points are called blood sites. If ancestors are buried at such a site, their descendants are believed to prosper, sometimes even shaping the fate of the nation itself. This belief determined the locations of royal tombs, the layout of capital cities, and even decisions about war and governance. And it was precisely this belief that opened the door to a tragic chapter in history. During the Japanese colonial period, Japan did not attempt to dominate Korea by military force alone. They sought to break something deeper. The roots, the invisible force believed to flow through the land itself. And that is where the mystery of the iron stakes begins. Part 2. A physical horror. 80 centimeters stakes driven into mountain spines. Since the 1990s, strange discoveries have continued across Korea's most famous mountains. Bukhansan, Seoraksan, Songnasan, Jirasan. These locations share one thing in common. They are extremely difficult to reach. Places where heavy equipment is impossible to use. And even climbers require ropes just to survive the ascent. And yet, iron stakes were found embedded there. Most measured between 60 and 80 centimeters long. Thicker than a man's wrist. Rust-covered, but clearly driven in by human hands. One of the most frequently mentioned cases occurred in 1995. At Munjangdi Peak on Mount Songmi, at over 1,000 meters above sea level, on a sheer cliff where a single person can barely stand, a massive iron stake was found driven straight down into solid rock. Nearby, investigators reported reddish stains and strange markings carved into the surface. Geomancy experts were stunned. They claimed the stake had been placed exactly at the point where the mountain's energy converges. In human terms, it was like driving a nail into the crown of the head or the heart. Workers involved in removing the stake later described disturbing experiences. Clear skies suddenly turning violent, lightning striking nearby, red-tinged liquid seeping from cracks in the rock. None of this can be scientifically proven. But the similarities in testimonies, repeated across different regions, continue to raise unsettling questions. Part 3. The fox severed the tiger's spine. The theory of ritual sabotage. So the question becomes unavoidable. Did Japan actually attempt to sever Korea's geomantic energy? At the center of this theory lies Japan's traditional occult system, known as Enmyodo. Shortly after annexing Korea, Japan established an organization called the Provisional Land Survey Bureau. Officially, it was created for modern land measurement. But some researchers argue that its purpose went far beyond administration. They claim it systematically recorded Korea's mountains, rivers, burial sites, and so-called auspicious land. Japanese folklorist Murayama Jun reportedly traveled across Korea, documenting local beliefs, burial customs, and geomantic structures. In extraordinary detail, Japan understood something crucial. They understood what Koreans believed in, and what gave them resilience. From this emerged a chilling phrase. The fox cut the tiger's spine. Korea was symbolized as a great tiger, and by severing its backbone, it would never rise again. Whether literal or symbolic, the iron stakes became a lasting image of an attempt to break not just a land, but a people's spiritual foundation. Part 4. Stakes that remain and the questions they leave behind. At a national level, efforts were made to remove these iron stakes. Hundreds were officially extracted. But even today, no one can say with certainty that all of them are gone. Scientists offer a different explanation. They argue the stakes were likely survey markers, or remnants of military infrastructure. Some claim the strange markings are nothing more than manufacturing codes. From a purely technical perspective, these explanations make sense. But in rural villages, the elders tell a different story. Why no great figure ever emerged from their land? Why hardship seems to repeat across generations? They believe the answer lies somewhere deep in the mountains, in a cold piece of iron that was never removed. Part 5. How much of Exhuma is real? Where film meets reality. After watching Exhuma, many viewers asked the same question. Did something like this really happen? In the film, iron stakes sever ancestral fortune, destroy family lines, and poison the land itself. And in reality, there are documented cases where stakes were found placed precisely at the most critical geomantic points of graves. In newspapers from the 1980s and 1990s, short articles appeared under vague headlines, such as geomantic disruption. They rarely made front-page news. The topic was too controversial, too easily dismissed as superstition. What Exhuma did was gather these scattered records and weave them into a single narrative. One critic described the film this way: not a horror movie, but a forced confrontation with a question Korean society avoided for decades. Part 6. Science responds. This is not a curse. Experts remain skeptical. During the colonial era, nationwide triangulation surveys were conducted. Placing markers on mountain peaks was standard practice. Some stakes may have been related to communications or military positioning. The symbols etched into them, scientists argue, are likely serial numbers, not spells. Logically, the argument holds. But the questions remain. Why are so many stakes located at sites geomancers describe as energy centers? Why are they found in places nearly impossible to access? And why do accounts of strange phenomena follow their removal so consistently? Science calls it coincidence. People call it something else. Part 7. What remains beneath the ground? Hundreds of iron stakes have been removed, but not all of them. Mountains are vast. Many areas have never been surveyed. One fact is undeniable. To Koreans, land has never been just a location. It is something to be protected. And the iron stakes, whether tools of ritual or relics of history, have become symbols, not of magic, but of violation. Part ending. Final words. You may choose to dismiss this story as superstition, but when you look closely at how a society remembers its land, fears it, and tries to protect it, you begin to see its deepest truths. Whether the iron stakes were a real curse, or merely symbols of historical trauma, remains unknown. But one thing is certain: the people living on this land are still standing on that unanswered question.